So before this fall, I had never actually seen a presidential candidate in person, let alone a president, ex-president. Until this last week, and this last month. So I think it's fitting that on a night where the entire world's psychic energy is focused on one event and two people, that I would tell you guys a quick story about my experience with big people. Can you feel the energy? Correction, my experience photographing big people. So basically, I've been getting into photography since the summer, since I took a class in digital photography. And originally I joined that class to actually learn videography for filmmaking. I literally just had an idea for a short film, and that's why I took it. That's what I said on the first day too. I said I'm not really here to learn photography, I'm here to learn how to shoot film. Really, I'm here to learn how to work a camera, a real camera, not an iPhone. But gradually I fell in love with it, and before I didn't like photography as a viewer. I wasn't like a huge fan of it. I didn't look at pictures. That wasn't really where my interests were. But gradually I just began to like it. I was good at it. And it's a Walter White reference. But anyways, I liked it. But I liked it and I was good at it, and I did it for me. But yeah, so I liked it and I was good at it, and I just gradually got more and more into it. And so at some point recently, the last month or two, I got a job at my school newspaper. Just because it made sense, because I needed money, and I have a nice camera, and I have the skills, so I'm like, might as well join. And unexpectedly, because of that, I was able to attend like actual events. I thought it would be like taking pictures of like a school bakery or something, and like writing puff pieces or taking silly photos. But no, dude, it was serious business. And I got press passes, I got everything. I'll show you. It was awesome. And it's serious business, because within the span of like a month, not only did I see Bernie Sanders, but I saw Donald Trump. And as an example of it's being serious business, I got a press pass. So I had to wear this at the Trump rally in my city. More on that later. But it kind of evolved from, first I saw this one guy, I forget his name, he was known as the border czar during the Obama era. You could look it up. The border czar. Let me find his name. Alan Burson. He was giving a talk at our school, and so I photographed him, talked to him a bit. I still gotta send him the photos I took of him. I forgot. I met him afterwards, so yeah, I gotta do that. And then I graduated to the next event, which was seeing Bernie Sanders, and that was awesome. And that was the first time I'd ever seen a presidential candidate. Of course, he didn't win, and he's not running now. But he did strike a nerve. He embodied some kind of energy or some kind of ethos that people like, and he was, of course, like subdued and extremely suppressed by the Democratic Party for like political reasons and money reasons and stuff like that. Not for any actual voting reason. And then I went to the big leagues like 3 weeks later. And I was going to make a video on the Bernie thing, and I accidentally deleted all of the videos I took right after, which is kind of sad. But it is what it is. That's what life's about a lot of times. And it's no use crying over spilled milk. But the Bernie speech was a turning point, I think, in my life. the fact that I was able to take the photos that I did, they ended up getting bought by a local public radio that's kind of a big deal. And it was all me that did it. I went there, I had a handler, because the Alan Burson event was I just walked in, and there's really nobody there to be a guard or anything. At the Bernie event, I had a handler, there was guards, there was police. It was in an auditorium, and I was kind of limited in where I could go to an extent. In the beginning, I could go anywhere, and I got a bunch of shots. And also, I did not say the word shots around the Bernie event, and I definitely did not say the word shot or getting shots of Trump at the Trump rally. I attended later, but I was getting a bunch of photos near the podium, and Bernie hadn't arrived yet. And then by a couple minutes before he arrived, my handler pulled me back. I think his name was Tom. And then in the middle of not rally, in the middle of the speech, I showed Tom some of the photos of the empty podium and was like, hey, look how cool these are. Like, wouldn't they look even better with Bernie? So he let me back up to the position I was at, which was right next to the stage, but it was kind of in the way of people. So he gave me like 45 seconds to shoot, and I just started spamming photos, and I just realized, holy crap, like these are all blurry. Like I'm really not getting what I'm needing. I'm kind of being anxious about it, kind of like not doing it. So I just dialed in and got like 6 shots, which were all perfectly in focus. And I actually was able to sell one. One of the ladies at the local the public radio asked me afterwards, hey, I took video, could you send me some of the photos? And so that night I sent her a couple, but my girlfriend was saying that I should try to sell them, not just give them away for free. And I was kind of scared, honestly. I've never sold a photo before, so I was kind of scared to even ask. I have no idea what my own worth is as a photographer. So I just basically, I was honest. I wasn't going to posture and pretend like I was an actual professional photographer yet, but I also wasn't going to just give them all away for free like a weak person. So I basically just said, yeah, I kind of want the exposure, so here's 3, and I gave them like 3 alright ones. Like, if you want any of the other ones, it's $150 per photo. And I bought one, and it's a great photo. And I felt really good about that. And so I knew I had created absolute fire after the speech. I already knew. Within 10 minutes of leaving, I was looking at the photos and thinking, not even within 10 minutes, within seconds of taking the photo and looking at it, I realized I had created something nice, something I was like proud of. And that feeling only grew. So that was pretty great. Of course, the Trump rally is different. That's a whole other animal. And I had no idea what to expect. And I don't really have any experience with that. Yeah, the Trump rally was different. Trump rally was different for a lot of reasons. Firstly, the fact that the security detail was insane. My girlfriend drove me there, and we got to the airport where it was happening, and there was a bunch of cops and state troopers, and they were basically like, they saw us and they said, you guys have papers, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't have papers. Like, bro, I work for the school newspaper. They just sent me a URL saying I was accepted. Let me back up. What happened with the Trump rally was we had no planning. There was no warning. All I knew was that basically my boss and mentor said that usually you get a 2 to 3 day warning, and that it probably was going to happen. This camera only has a 30 millimeter zoom, 30 millimeter wide angle lens, so it's kind of irrelevant. Yeah, there was no, it'll become relevant later. There was no warning that it was going to happen, and so I was just hoping. Like, I literally was just kind of praying, like, I hope that happens, because the Bernie event was so awesome. I hope it happens again. And as for the Bernie event, I'm not really like against Bernie. I was just kind of listening to what he was saying vaguely. He didn't really say anything disagreeable. The thing I liked most probably he said was that he was talking about how not having medical insurance will stress you out, and it makes it harder to build up the resources to pay for medical bills if you are sick. And so if you become sick and you don't have good insurance and you're not rich, you're kind of screwed. I mean, that's obviously like true. I forget how much he hammered on the drug companies themselves, because that's a big part of it. Anyways, but we get to the Trump rally, and there's a bunch of cops and state troopers, and they stop our car, and she was driving. They go to her window. They're like, "What are you guys here for?" I'm like, "Press." They're like, "Where's your papers?" I'm like, "All I have is a URL." And the backstory with the URL is that when Trump announced it, it was on a Wednesday when it was announced, and the event was happening that Friday. And so my mentor put in applications for all of us, for press passes, and we didn't get anything. There was no, for the first day there was no word on it, and then, which is unusual, usually it's accepted a lot faster. The next day, early in the morning, and he said, you guys should get tickets, it's just general attendees, just in case. Looking back, they wouldn't have let me bring my camera, but it still would have been interesting to go, maybe with an iPhone. But the second day, early in the morning, I get an email saying we were all rejected and denied. And then immediately after, about a minute later after getting that email, we get another email saying, actually, you are accepted, meaning me and one other person, and the rest were rejected. I don't know why. They might have literally just looked up our names and then the newspaper we're part of and found articles and decided based off that. Maybe they saw that I was connected to them only in one link you could find, and it was a really good photo. They're like, oh, maybe that guy would be good because he's just a photographer. So anyways, they asked for our papers, and I'm like, dude, I just have a URL. So they asked me to get out, and I'm just standing there with all my gear, and my girl just drives away. And she didn't want to be there anyways. And I'm like racing through my emails like, shit, I gotta find it. This guy's a gun. All these dudes have guns. And finally I found it, showed it to him, was like, okay, that looks legit, whatever. And then he told me to start walking. So I just started walking like a mile up the road. And there was just giant caravan of people on the left, and then me on the right. This is crazy. Okay, so I guess you can't have anything metal. It's an issue. Probably should have suspected that. So. And I'm just kind of zipping by the line, and I call my boss. He's like, yeah, we're up here, we're at a tent. And also, mind you, the latest that press could get in was 4:30, and I was getting there at 4:04. And Trump wasn't supposed to get there until 7:30, I believe, or 8:30. Of course, he didn't actually get there until like 10:15. So going too early, I'm glad I went that late, but it was cutting it close. I was kind of scared. I didn't know how intense everything was. So I start walking, and I'm walking up the road, and I get to these tents, and there's my boss, and then there's a classmate of mine, and she's one of the people checking people in, so that was funny. So she checked me in, and then I went to the the bomb and gunpowder sniffing dogs. And they start, they put all our packages down, we walk ahead, they separate us from our gear, and they sniff, and the dog sniffs it. Then the guys start ruffling through it. And it's funny, I just have this distinct memory of one of the guys rummaging through my bag, and then pulling out four cheddar cheese sticks. This is gonna be my snack. And then looking at them and then just stuffing them back in. That was my snack. So I brought 4 cheddar cheese sticks, and he was just like looking at them and pulled them out, and then he just put them back in, zipped it up, and gave us the go ahead.
There's food trucks in this one. I don't know if we're even able to go over to the main. We might have to stay in the press.
Yeah. We didn't know they changed the plan.
And I got scanned with a metal detector, obviously. And then we were on our way, and we started walking. And then once we got there, it was crazy. It was a giant aircraft hangar.
This isn't so bad. I felt like it'd be more claustrophobic.
That had been retrofitted into some kind of general attendance venue. There was an ice cream truck. In fact, the ice cream truck is owned by my girlfriend's dad. He owns the ice cream truck. He's also Trump's strongest soldier, I guess. That's what I've heard. So, yeah, he was invited. I'm not gonna go into it, but he was invited. Anyways, he was selling ice cream. It was chill, and it was just a bunch of like boomers basically, and then young people. There's some young people, and but it was kind of cool. And they gave me a press necklace right when I got there before I even got searched, and that's where I got that little necklace. My classmate was the one who gave it to me. And, yeah, so they started, we get in there and there's giant guards everywhere. And then we're led to the press pit, which was a caged, fenced-in area with tables and such, and an elevated stand for the big news companies like Fox and CNN to put their cameras. And then there was the lower stands for people like me, just to take photos. I could use the stands, I could have, but that's the thing I was getting to. I only have a 30mm lens, and I didn't have the time to rent my own, and I didn't have the wherewithal to think maybe I should borrow a lens from the school or whatever. So I had a wide-angle lens, so meaning that I was going to have to focus on portraits of people and shots of the crowd, which wasn't the worst thing. And of course it's a good lens, so it wasn't the worst thing. But that also meant that it was going to be very hard to get good shots of Trump. And remember, I don't say shots. Not at the rally. As for the Trump voters, the funny thing is that like a lot of people who I talked to about that event before it happened kept saying, "Be careful! Don't tell people you're a journo or a photographer, whatever." I was expecting violence. I've never been to something like this. I don't know why. It was so chill. The people were so nice. People were incredibly nice. Like the chillest event ever. I only think there's ever been violence at Trump rallies when there's counter-protesters. That's the only time shit like that gets violent. This was a rally of like fucking peace. I mean, they were excited, but they were super, super chill. And I got to push the limit, and also because we didn't really have anything to do for many, many hours, we just started going around, me and my coworker at the newspaper, we started going around interviewing people and taking photos. So I just started going up to random people and saying, "Can I take a photo?" So I got like one of a guy wearing a fedora, a grandpa and his grandson wearing Trump merch, a woman saying like something like "arrest this" or something, and I was like, "Yeah, put your flex for me," because she had a tank top on. So she put her tongue out. I saw a classmate of mine. I'm not going to show his picture because he told me he doesn't want people to see it. But yeah, and just a bunch of other people. And I got a lot of great photos of people and of the crowd. And it was cool. It was cool. Like, people were super nice to me. They were all happy to have their picture taken. Some of them wanted it. Like the grandpa and the grandson, they wanted their picture. The grandson actually kind of, he knows how to pose. He kind of looks hard in one of them. They both kind of look badass for what it is. And then the guy with the fedora, he's just a funny dude. And there was a guy wearing a brick wall suit. He was doing an Instagram live. That was pretty funny. But yeah. Now the interesting thing is, in the beginning I could take my camera out of the press pit, but at some point, after I'd taken a bunch of photos of portraits of people, when I got back in, there was some kind of rule changed. And then suddenly there was a lady guarding the gate. She said, "You guys can't leave." I'm like, "Okay, obviously we were allowed to leave." She's like, "Well, if you leave, you can't come in." I'm like, "That's what if we have to go to the bathroom or something?" So I went to talk to the lady in charge, and she was like, "Oh, you just can't leave with your gear." Then I talked to the lady at the gate, and I'm like, "Yeah, we just can't leave with our gear." Blah, blah, blah. It turned out she was a volunteer, and then I was like, "How about I take portraits of you?" So I took some portraits of her, and then she said, "You know what, hon? If you just put your stuff in your bag, if you just put your stuff in your jacket, I'll just pretend I haven't seen anything." I'm like, "Okay, cool," because I was way too far away to get the kind of shots of Trump I wanted. And then I went up and talked to one of like the kind of beefy security guards. I'm like, "Yeah, what would happen if I brought my camera out into the crowd right now? Or like when Trump's here?" He was like, "Oh, you'd have your ass handed to you in 30 seconds. Because they're looking for anything even remotely gun-like, and that includes a camera. Plus, they just don't like the media in general, the Trump team." So like if I tried to sneak my camera out there, or do as my girlfriend suggested, which was hand my camera over the gate to her. She doesn't like Trump, but she was just there to show moral support, I guess. If I had given my camera to her, or if I had tried to sneak out there, I definitely would have been bad. I would have been banned forever. So it was good. And the guy he wouldn't seem pissed. The security guard seemed more concerned. He was just like, yeah, that's a terrible idea. As well, I talked to this kind of older photographer who seemed experienced, who gave me his business card. He gave me some good tips. Yeah, it was just a good time. And then finally Trump arrived, and we'd all been waiting, and he was already late. He was super late. He was so late, like nearly 3 hours late. But he was too busy talking to Joe Rogan. He was too busy talking to Rojogan. And so he was flying straight from Texas. And let me tell you, taking pictures of Trump right after he talked to Joe Rogan, and then going home and watching that episode of JRE, that's weird. Like, that's a weird turn of events. And it's especially weird because at the rally, when he got there, he was talking about weaving conversational things, and I thought that's funny. I took some photos of him doing the weave hand gesture. Then I watched the JRE episode, and he's talking about weaving stuff into conversation too. I'm like, well, he's just like repeating himself. But anyways, yeah, and so he gets there, and his plane arrives, and the crowd goes fucking crazy. And by the way, before he even came, they were playing like radio, like playing Black Eyed Peas. They were playing that one Chicken Fried song to like appeal to country people, even though that is so not Trump. Trump is not a country guy at all. That's just the kind of people who vote for him. But he is not a country guy, I promise you. He talks like my grandma, and she is definitely not country. They have similar mannerisms. They're both born, I think they were both born in 49. They're born a couple years apart at most. And she's from Buffalo. He grew up in a wealthy, he's not even like a true New Yorker, he's a wealthy New Yorker from like a purebred family. So he is no southern gent or anything like that. He's no good old boy. But yeah, so he gets there and the crowd's going crazy, and then they start playing this deep like doom, 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 like Undertaker music is what I think it was. And he just walks out cold as fuck in this like trench coat type shit. And he just stares at the crowd, dude. He's just staring at them. And of course he has this giant bulletproof glass thing, but I think he was beyond it at this point. He's just staring at them. They went on for like 5 minutes. He's a master of theatrics, truly. It is getting downright atmospheric. It was theatrical. The entire night was theatrical. I mean, they had these giant jumbotrons playing little videos or whatever of not even edits, but kind of like little edits of him and his story or the assassination attempt, all that shit. Kamala. Shit like that. So he's just like staring at the crowd for 5 minutes while this music plays, and then he finally starts talking. And then that's when I'm like, I was taking shots before, but at this point I'm taking a lot of photos, hundreds. And I'm just trying to get it from every angle, like stepping on the steps and getting as close to the TV people and their stations or whatever to go up those steps on the big stand, take photos. And I'm just getting really frustrated at like my lack of preparation. And that's the other thing, as long as you're learning lessons every time you fail, you're not failing. And so the lessons I learned this time was that it's better just to get one shot right than to try to go in the spam mode or whatever and take 20 shots and hope one of them is good. It's just a waste of your time. Secondly, the effort to be polite and make taking a photo of a random person fast can oftentimes just make you more frustrated and make the picture less good. They're going to be happier if the photo is like really, really good. For some of those photos, like the woman who was flexing for me, I wasn't telling her to fix her shirt or other things because I was worried she was going to be upset it was going to take too long. What I should have done is take 3 photos. I should have been in the single photo mode. And I should have said, your shirt's a little bit wrinkled over here, I can't read it, this and that. Just give a tasteful amount of corrections and then take the shot. Or just take the shot, look at it real quick and think what needs to be fixed. And do that once more, and then do that again once more. And I just wasn't doing that. I was just trying to get it as fast as possible because I was anxious about I don't want it to take too long. That's number 2. So in the future I'm going to realize that there's no pressure. They can leave when they want, and I should be trying to get a good shot. And they're going to be happier if I get the best shot possible. And I know I can take good shots fast. Rushing myself is the issue. Rushing myself for the sake of supposed politeness is the issue. Number 3, the third one is prepare. And I should have prepared more in whatever way possible. I was so focused on what I had, or whatever. I just wasn't focused on the correct thing, which was getting the right lens for this. It would have even possibly been better if I had adapted my 85mm frickin' medium format film lens to my camera, because at least it would have been more zoomed in. Of course, I was using this to take film photos, which I'll get to as well. So maybe that wasn't, in the end, that was kind of inevitable that I couldn't use that lens. But the best option wouldn't have been renting, wouldn't have been adapting, it would have been using or borrowing one of the lenses from my school, because they have the zoom lenses. And they don't fit my camera. I could have used a different camera. I could have used this camera to take the wide angles, and I could have used the school camera to take the zoomed in ones, because there are zoom lenses they have. So that's something else I could have done. I don't regret it too much. The photos came out fine. They just weren't to the caliber of the Bernie photos, but you win some, you lose some. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's just the way things work, and that's progress. And so I'm not too bummed out about it. I was afterwards for a couple days. I'm not bummed out about it anymore. I think it happened perfectly, and as it should have. And I'm happy about how it went. And I'm also just happy for the opportunity I got to actually do it. So just keep moving forward and don't ever give up, I guess. That's like my credo. It's my motto. It's my ethos. Anyways, so I took those are the mistakes I made, and those are the lessons I learned, which I hope to correct in the future. Now, as for the actual shots, yeah, he got there late. I probably spent 30 minutes taking photos, and then I just split. It was so cold. I'd been there since 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I left at 11. So I was there for 6 hours, 7 hours. I was there for 7, sorry, I had to count that, I don't know why. I was there for 7 hours in this cold-ass aircraft hangar. And I ate ice cream. The only respite I got was going into my girlfriend's dad's ice cream truck and eating ice cream in there. Also, one of Trump's guards went in there. I'm not going to reveal who it was. But yeah, he went in there. It was kind of funny. He just needed a break, I think.
What's he like?
What's he like?
Can you put in a good word for me? I need photographic work.
Are you voting for him?
So he was literally just in there eating ice cream, talking to us. It was so weird. I don't know if he's Secret Security or Secret Service or normal security or whatever, but I don't think he was Secret Service. I think it was just security. He had a nice suit on. He had a $3,000 suit on. Bro was dripped to the gills. The suit was more expensive than probably anything I own. Though not more valuable. I would say this camera's more valuable. And I'd say I'd rather have this jacket than that suit. Anyways, especially because this is a gift. From the girl I already mentioned. So, lastly, I guess I'll mention, after I got the shots, I think I got how many shots? 3,000 photos? It was ridiculous. It was too many. I realized I'd gotten enough. So me and my girlfriend, we got in the shuttle, because she had ended up driving somewhere else and parking somewhere, and then took a shuttle. Me and her got in the shuttle, and yeah, you weren't allowed to park next to it. You parked in a parking area, then a bus will pick you up. So we get to this giant crowd out back, and everybody's already leaving. And I packed all my stuff up and shit, and said goodbye to everybody. And it was in the middle of Trump's speech. But as we're leaving, there's a giant crowd, and we walked a minute, and it's cold as hell, and shivering, and I'm carrying all the shit. We get to a crowd, and then a bus immediately appears, and then we're all pushing each other like sardines, packed to get on this bus. And normally, I would let my elders go ahead of me in line, but not tonight. They were all old, so they're all old, and I was gonna be there until, if I was gonna let my elders go ahead of me, I was gonna be there all night long. So I cut in front of a bunch of old people with her, and we were holding hands not to be separated, and then we got on the bus. And then it was like a Greyhound, and the bus started driving, and then we were driving and we hit this police barricade of 2 police cars in the middle of the road, and we just waited there for 15 minutes, and then we saw this giant jet leave the airport, and it was Trump's jet. He had left literally, I think 10 minutes after I had left, and my girlfriend left. And he had jumped on his jumbo jet and flew, or private jet, and flew his private jet. he jumped his private jet and flew away. And they were making sure that, I don't know, there's no way we could interfere. I think they were worried about something. They were just like making sure it was a secure takeoff. Nobody was going to drive in front of this jet and their pickup truck and like, you know, crash it or something as it was taking off. So he takes off and we can see it. I actually got some photos on my phone of him flying away into the distance. Like a sparkling golden orange light. I think it's Trump. I think the Trump jet actually has some gold on it. Anyways, and then we took off, and then we were dropped off, and then we got in her car, and then we drove away. It was a successful mission, and a successful event. And then I got home, and to make space on my computer for the files, I was being a bit silly, a tad bit silly. I deleted all of my Bernie videos that I took talking about that event. So this will have to suffice. But yeah, it was great. I liked it. And I think that the people were ridiculously nice, and every little bit of fear people had about, that people were telling me about you know, Trump people or Trump voters at the rallies being violent or evil was complete nonsense. They were super chill. It was like super. It was both at the Bernie and at the Trump event. They were extremely nice. I didn't feel threatened even a single time. There's one funny part actually. There was only one part. When I was in the press pit, I was taking photos and videos, and then Trump said, "The fake news media, they never videotape the crowds. They never videotape the crowd." What did he say? He said, they never show the crowds. They never show the crowd. He's like, they never show the crowds. And then every single person in the crowd looked back at the press pit. And then I just started taking all the photos I could of all those people and showing the crowds. They were all like looking at me. It was funny because they were all like, because I was just a photographer. It's much easier for a person in the crowd to look at a CNN, you know, guy running one of their cameras and be like, fuck that dude. But I was just like a dude. I was just a dude with my own camera. And so they were all like looking back at me, and at first I sensed like, not even hatred, just like, you know, screw you in their eyes. But then after they saw me and my face and the fact that I was like smiling, they started smiling too. And I didn't feel like they hated me. And then I just started taking as many photos as I can. And I have some photos of these kids who were looking at me when that happened. And I don't think they disliked me. I think people just thought it was funny. And it was like, I'm showing the crowds, dude. I'm showing all of the crowds. Anytime you talk about crowds, I would turn around and show all the crowds. Because it's the truth. It doesn't matter what's right or wrong, it doesn't matter if it's true. I don't know if that's a good way of living. I can't tell if the truth should be valued more than what's right or wrong. Or if those are even separate things. Anyways, I decided to show the truth, which was showing the crowds. But yeah, at both the Trump rally and the Bernie speech, people were, you know, it was super nice. It was great. People were super nice to me at both of them. You'd think at the Bernie, but at the Trump it was somewhat unexpected. And yeah, I want to do something like that again. Last thing I'll mention, I probably got the first film photos taken of Trump and Bernie in like a decade at least. They're photo negatives. So I took some photos of Bernie at his event in a dark ass room with weird ass colored lighting, like red and blue LED lighting. So the photos didn't come out great. Not to mention, I didn't get them scanned by the place that developed them because I don't have enough money. So instead I scanned them at my school scanner. Turns out it's not even a photo scanner. It's a scanner for fucking artwork. So it's not even meant for film. So that was a little bit disappointing. So basically my point is the scans are not great. I mean, like it gave me a terrible format. It gave me 22,000 by 22,000 pixels. And most of it is white space, but it means it's way too large for me to use in Lightroom, so I have to crop it. It's just a whole nightmare. I need to get them professionally scanned, or I need to scan them myself. So, but at the end of the day, I took the first, I mean, who else has taken film photographs of Donald Trump? Who else has done that in years? I don't know, maybe somebody has. I doubt it though. Why would you? So, I took some of Trump with the, I took the lens off the camera because I got to fix some parts of it so I can like focus better. But with this Agfa Isolet Solinar 85mm 4.5 lens. and I took both series of photos with that, just one roll each. And so the lesson I learned at the Bernie event was that it was way too dark. I think I was using Portrait 200 or something. And because of that, and because of how dark it was, which is a pretty low ISO film speed, I had to shoot at very low shutter speeds, like 1/50th of a second. As a result, the photos are quite blurry, and details of Bernie are sparse. It would have been nicer to shoot closer, but the issue with that camera is that because of the way everything works, it's hard to get anything in focus that's within 15 feet. I need to put bellows with that lens on that camera so I can actually take close-up shots and get it correctly in focus, unifocus it. This time I had a good amount of distance, but the lesson I learned was get a higher speed film, so I got 800 Portra instead. The thing I would do now, with what I know now, is I would have gotten color positive slide film for both of them. That way I could just see it clearly, and I could just point my iPhone at it in video form and just show you, and you can at least see it somewhat clearly. Of course, that's also, overall, it's going to be like twice as expensive to do all of that. So, I don't know. I don't really have money, so it is what it is. But these are the Bernie photos. And what's really interesting about these is you can actually see, and you'll see this in the photo that I've shown when I was talking about Bernie, that I took that was bought by the public radio station. But you can actually see the Kamala, the words Kamala on the wall, the projection of it. See if I can get it in focus. Can you see it? Okay, focus speaking. Yeah, do you see that? Needs a dark background maybe? See the word Kamala? I'm getting my fingerprints all over this film. See that? See those words? It says Kamala on it. Yep. Because that's what he was there for. He was there to get Kamala in office. So those are the photos of Bernie. He's kind of a vague, blurry mess in them, but it is what it is. It's film. It's cool. And as I get better at it, I can get sharper photos. I know I'm capable of taking good photos, even with this shitty, not shitty, but this old camera, and with this format of film, because I've done it. Most of the good ones I've taken with color positive though. So maybe I just need to shoot that, or I just need to shoot black and white. Probably would have been better to shoot black and white, but again, the development costs are expensive, even though the film itself is cheap. So that's the Bernie film. I'll show you some. Of the scans I took of it. That's the Bernie film. I don't want to touch it too more because I don't want to scratch it or put fingerprints on it. As for the Trump film, I think it turned out better, but I haven't got the chance to really color correct it. I'm gonna just put some in the video, and you guys can be the judge. Later on, probably after this election, I'll get it properly scanned, and you guys can see clearly whether it was shot well or not. But the lesson I learned was I need a higher speed film, and I need to shoot at higher shutter speeds. And so I did that. I think some of the shots were still a bit underexposed, but it is what it is. And I'll show you through my camera. I want to start DSLR scanning. That'd be cool. This is through a plastic film to protect it. So yeah, you can see the crowd. See the crowd? That's all negative. There's a red hat, but he has an inverted color blue hat. 47. Is that right way up? I think it is right way up. This is a shot that was well exposed. I think this was during the daytime. Might have been one of the first shots I took, even though it's in the middle. But that's because I cut the film in half to make it fit the art scanner. The scanner I used for these was meant for like artwork, not for film. I do have access to a scanner that should be able to scan this much better, but my friend has it, so I gotta I gotta get it from him. Yep. Historical scans, historical film. Well, and the benefit of film is that even if we just pretend that it has a similar resolution to, per inch or per millimeter, that good modern digital camera scanner, not scanners, camera sensors have, even if we pretend that's the case and it might even have more, the upside is that it's much cheaper in the short run. Medium format digital cameras, which are very impressive, but still they're extremely expensive. Thousands or even $12,000 for some of the Hasselblad medium format cameras. The issue with those is they're not even medium format. They're technically medium format, but they're not 6 by 6 centimeters. What are they? They're like 80% as big, 75% as big as these. And these can go larger. You can get 6 by 7s. These are 6 by 6. You could even do 6 by 9, which is what I'm planning on doing. The benefit, basically, at the end of the day of film is that it has a much lower barrier to entry. Now, in the long run, it's going to cost you probably way more. The benefit of digital is once you get it, you got it, and you can just take as many photos as you want. With this, it's like, yeah, I can get this giant, beautiful, wide sensor area for $1 a frame, let's say. And that has a much, much, much better signal-to-noise ratio than, the typical scanner I would be able to afford. Much better. So this is just a much, in the short term, cheaper way of shooting very, because let's say you only have $1,000 available to you. Let's put it like that. You only have $1,000 available to you to shoot photographs, or even 500. Let's say 500. You could get a $500 digital camera and lens, or you could do that with film and shoot medium format. And with the camera and lens, you're going to have a micro four thirds or an APS-C sensor at most, which is extremely small compared to this. I could probably put a block in here to show you how small. Extremely small compared to this. And the main thing about photography in general is that the wider the sensor area, the less noise, and just the more detail you can capture with the same lens. So, especially if that lens has or the same resolving power of a lens, because different lenses have different image area sizes, blah blah blah. But basically, at the end of the day, you could also spend that $500 on a medium format camera and a really good lens. You probably need more than $500. I don't know, it's complicated. Potentially, though, especially if you're poor, you could get huge, beautiful frames with shit tons of detail if you have a good lens and a good system. And you could capture way more detail with these than you could with a digital camera, potentially. Digital is way cleaner, though, let's just be honest. It's gotten to the point where it's way cleaner. There's so many algorithms and things they do to it to clean the image up that they don't usually do with film. And the other downside of film that usually makes it actually inferior than digital is it's usually just improperly scanned. Most of the time, film is not scanned to anywhere close. It's the true resolution that it could be scanned at. Even good film scanners usually don't really do it that great. So, if you have film, probably the best way to display it would just be to optically print it, and then you have something beautiful. And I was making the point earlier to a friend of mine over text, but even with a shitty lens, if it has a high enough image area, you can capture incredible amounts of detail in a photograph as long as your sensor area or your film plate is big enough. Look at that one Great Depression photo of that mother, that depressed mother with her children clung to her breast, and she's just wistfully staring off into the distance. That was shot on I think it was shot on a 4x5 or even a 10x10. I think it was 4x5 photographic plate with a 1920s or 1930s Tessar lens, uncoated, almost certainly uncoated. And it's a beautiful, amazing shot, and the detail is insane. So my point is, you can kind of cheat just by having a giant sensor size, and if you want to have a giant sensor size with digital, it's ridiculously expensive the larger you go. With film, it's really not that much more expensive. It only adds up as you do more photos, but for a singular photo, And that's the benefit of digital. You can just keep hammering it away with photos, and it's just like takes it. With film, it's one and done. Maybe you can do multiple exposures, but it's one and done, let's say. And it's the price it is, and it's very multiples of factors cheaper than the same image sensor of that size, but it's only one and done. So you can only do it once. And so that's the downside. But that also means that if you have a shitty lens, I have this projector lens. It has an image area 6 by 9 centimeters wide, about probably 6 by 10 even, maybe 6 by 11. I've measured it using wax paper and a ruler. End of the day though, it probably has a usable area of 6 by 9, 6 by 10. You could take incredibly detailed photos with this thing, even though it was never meant to take photos, it was meant to display them. Simply because it's good enough and the imaging area is big enough that it can capture a shit ton of detail if need be, if necessary. And it can do things like that. Interesting things. Do a quick little, I just want to do a quick little, fun little. There it is. There's my eyeball. See it? Oh, come on. Come back. There it is. Huh. There's my eye. Yeah, like you can see the image quality is not... It can capture fine detail pretty good, actually. It's just not as good as some of these modern lenses. Or lenses, not even modern, just lenses meant for photography. But if the imaging area was large enough, it could very easily capture stunningly sharp, detailed images. God damn, my eyes are green in that. Whoa. Okay, anyways. That's pretty much what I wanted to share. Those are my interesting experiences that are election themed. No, I haven't made a video in a while, but hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, I think it's an interesting time right now. There's just like a lot of psychic energy flowing around, and I'm sure we can all feel it. And it's not just Americans, the entire world, let's just be honest here, the entire world is watching. Even if you guys pretend you're not, Australians, Brits, you guys, as the Anglosphere especially, you guys are watching, because you understand, we all understand the same language, so you guys are definitely watching. Let's not pretend you're not. It's a big deal. But yeah, it is a big deal. And it might even determine the fate of the human universe, the timeline. Who knows? Like, we have no idea. It might determine everything. So let's all hope for the best and keep fighting for a good future, regardless of what that, not regardless of what that looks like. The best we can all do is think carefully and intend for a good future. So let's all intend for a good future. Hope you guys enjoy my video. Peace. And don't forget working. It's not enough to intend. You also have to work towards a good future. So let's all intend towards a good future and then make it happen. So thanks, guys.